Good evening. Will the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, October 7th, 2025, please come to order? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Copley?
Here.
Hines? Here. Parrish?
Here.
Renacci?
Here.
Rossbert?
Here.
Stugmeyer?
Here.
Yuracek?
Here.
And Williams.
Here. You've all had the opportunity to review the minutes for the Committee of the Whole on September 16th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve them?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes for the Committee of the Whole on September 16th are approved. Tonight, would like to go into an executive session. Get the language.
Yes. Mr. President, I hereby move that we hold an executive session for preparing for, conducting, or reviewing collective bargaining strategy and for a conference with the Director of Law concerning disputes involving this public body that are subject of pending or imminent court action.
Copley?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Yuracek?
Yes.
Williams.
Yes. We'll all be, if you all exit the chambers, we'll call you back. I'm not sure, maybe about 15 minutes.
Yeah, there we go.
We got it.
We got it.
Okay.
Okay, we're now out of executive session. We're going to review draft legislation. I'm going to call an audible. We're going to move to item number 6, which is a resolution from council. I think everybody's seen it as far as council. Resolution establishing a policy of the council of the City of Wadsworth, Ohio, to limit the approval of borrowing to critical infrastructure and safety concerns. Discussion from council.
Who wrote the resolution?
Mr. Crawford,
Who had him write the resolution?
council. With several
Not all
members
of council, huh?
Several members. We sent it out to everybody that they could review it, add
Yeah.
to it, what have you.
I guess my one comment would be is, don't we already have the ability to, we approved the budget, so we already have control over, it just seems like it's opening us up to, there are times where we would want to be able to possibly issue debt for projects that you're taking out of it. Like, who determines critical?
Critical, as it says, would be like safety and security measures, infrastructure. If we look at, actually it's in conjunction with item number 7, if you put those two together, it makes a pretty good statement.
And I also found out today that whenever we approve the budget, we're not actually seeing the approved budget. The budget books that we are given are actually proposed budget books. We pass 2 sheets of paper that shows the final budget. We have no idea what's in that final budget. And because I've been asking questions about the free park thing, and that's when I found all this out, going through, trying to figure out where everything was in the budget. Well, we approved $2 million, but we didn't know we approved $2 million because it wasn't in the capital plan or anything.
This should actually be, in my opinion, a no-brainer. If City Council, all you're really doing is saying that unless it's a critical, and if it's not a critical asset, which is anything related to water, sewer, anything that's needed, or the safety of the community, you shouldn't be borrowing money for it. If you are borrowing money for it, then the City Council should, they can step up and say, hey, we want to ignore this resolution and borrow money for it. But I think it's a pretty simple thing that you shouldn't be borrowing money for things that don't have payer sources. You shouldn't be borrowing money for things that are going to rely on the income taxes when, you know, you might not be here 5 years from now or 6 years from now when those things have to be replaced and there's no payer source. So the big problem with what I see, and I did, if you're asking who helped, I actually helped write it as well. I don't know why city council would ever not support something like this, because basically what you're saying is, and if you read the first whereas of the agreement, of the resolution, I mean, it spells it out pretty well. Maintaining fiscal responsibility, protecting long-term financial stability. You can always shift direction at any time as the city council, but the city council should tell the administration that we don't want to borrow for things that aren't critical infrastructure. And if you do want to borrow, then city council can vote for it.
Is resolution number 7, I see in there, it also says the incurrence of debt or borrowing. Is number 7 necessary if we pass number 6? Isn't one covering the other? I mean, the 7 is calling out the park specifically, but wouldn't that be covered if we passed resolution number 6?
It could be.
I mean, that would just, legislation we don't, it's covered already. We really wouldn't need number 7 if we agree to number 6.
I think the only reason for 7 is to spell out that parks, unless you have a payer source, parks are definitely not a payer source. Parks come from the income tax. People are competing for, the fire, that's why I brought it up earlier, the fire or the police, they're competing for income tax dollars. And parks, you need to find some source. Some communities do park levies. Then you can do, and of course, we tried a park levy many years back and the community did not support it. But if the parks are really a supportable item, I think you could line item that and get a levy, get a parks levy and run it and see if it can pass by. And then I think you could do all the parks. That's the only reason I would separate it, is it really spells out, look, I like parks. I think parks are great for the community, but you better have a payer source, because once you spend all this money for parks, 7 or 8 years from now, you're going to have to spend it all again to replace a lot of this stuff for 10 years. So once we commit, we commit for a long future of replacement. So I just think city council should always look at how to, if we don't have a payer source, we better be careful. Parks are one of those items. We're spending a lot of money on parks. I got hijacked this Sunday by a person in church who just said to me, he was complaining of all the money being spent on parks. I don't even know how he got the information. And he just said, you're coming after tax money, you're going to raise the income tax. So I think this just sets a standard for city council when it comes to parks. You're exactly right. You could say, well, parks aren't critical infrastructure, but I think it's important to spell that line item out, because we have a big master plan for parks, and it just adds to it as well. But
Understood, thank you.
I think also it would be a little easier to digest user fees for some of the tournaments or ball game, the leagues that use our parks that we maintain. Yes, it's tax dollars, but we have people coming from other areas to use these parks, and I think it does give us the ability to have some user fees in there too. So
I feel number 7 is very important also. Just as important as number 6, in my opinion, for the reasons it's already been stated.
Any other comments? No?
So, Mr. President,
Yeah.
I'd like to just provide perspective, if it's okay for council, and perhaps it's contrary to your opinions, but I think it's meaningful discussion and good discussion. So in terms of the resolution to support critical infrastructure and safety security needs, to borrow a phrase that Mr. Renacci used, that is a no-brainer. That makes sense. We all want to make sure that we provide for this community, both from a critical infrastructure standpoint as well as from its safety and security standpoints. I don't think you're going to get any opposition from the administration on that regards. That is an important part of debt issuances. It has been in our history, and it will continue to be moving forward. But I do have issue with the language of this resolution. I think you are taking steps that might hinder this council's ability and future council's ability. We shouldn't be passing resolutions just to wait for you to say, don't worry about that resolution and guidance now, because we want to do this here. Looking at the language of this resolution, it talks about protecting the interests of taxpayers. You are charged with protecting the interest of not only taxpayers, but residents, as well as ratepayers. Doesn't talk about ratepayers. Critical infrastructure was defined as water, sewer. Interestingly, no reference to electric at all in the reference. Roads, transportation, no reference to other vitally important tax-related and supported services that the city provides. Sure, it's parks, and yes, that's a general fund department, but there's the airport. So we should not invest in the airport? Is that critical infrastructure? It's not identified as a utility infrastructure. How about the senior center? A lot of deserving, important people use our senior center daily. They're not, we're looking at an expansion of that center soon. Can't use debt for that? Not a critical of importance? Not of a safety importance or a security importance? What about the community center in general, where we have partnership agreements in which we need to be a part of debt issuances when them come up? We need to have a discussion point in those discussions. What about WCTV, rec services in general government items? All of these are important items that why in the world would you consider limiting your ability? Because you're the final say, your ability to issue debt if it's ever needed. You don't have to do this. You have the final say, and you have a wide open administration willing to talk to you, to listen, to have meaningful discussions about what the needs of this community are today and what the future councils might need for this community. You talk about non-essential or discretionary spending. That is in the eye of the beholder. It is. I don't know what someone's going to seem critical to them in the future. I don't know what people feel today is critical or non-essential. But you have this ability today without a resolution passing it. You don't have to do that. Turning to item number 7, the parks, and I know I perhaps don't have the same opinion there as others do, but think about what we're doing here. We passed a master plan where there was tons of community involved in that. And they identified the needs assessments of our community in terms of the park assets. Parks are assets. I don't think anyone disagrees. I've talked to many of you individually. I think you understand and get that parks are important to our community. There are lots of users of the parks, not just league folks, simple residents using the parks. Parks add value to our lives. Parks add value to our properties. Some communities market their parks as a reason to come live in their communities. It's important to all communities. You know, when we talk about parks, I think we've gotten somewhat concerned about what's happened in the last year or two, whether it be Memorial Parks funding, whether it be Memorial and Durling Courts funding, whether it be splash pads or zip lines and playgrounds, Freed Park, which is ongoing now. Those weren't creations of someone sitting in this chair before me or someone on this side of the fence. That was a collective decision to move forward on those projects. They were in budgets, supplements were provided. We didn't do anything with an item or an advantage or a perspective to pull the wool over anyone's eyes, whether it be council or our communities, knowing that these are long-term assets. I think in item 7, when you're talking about prohibiting debt issuance for park projects, we're missing the boat. You, right now, today, can say, Matt, no park projects in 26, and that's what I'm taking this ordinance or this resolution proposal to mean. This means you do not want to fund park projects using debt in next year's budget, which means tomorrow, Mr. Testa and I will be going through the budget as we currently propose it and removing park projects from that budget. It's not just based on this resolution, but this tells me the intent of this council's resolution when it comes to debt, in addition to our prior discussions about debt. So that's important. Again, you all have that ability today. you have that ability through the remainder of our budget discussions to remove things from the budget. The issue becomes, how do you fund parks? We invested $2 million in the Brickyard property to create an athletic complex and a passive park complex. How do I build that without debt? The only other idea that I can think of is a levy. That's a tax. You all support another tax for our community? Or are you saying, use pay-as-you-go methods of paying for this project? Pay-as-you-go, it'll take us 10 years to save that kind of money in the general fund to pay for a park expansion of that magnitude. I don't think our community is expecting us to wait 10 years to do that. Debt. I am with you. As much as I'm standing on a soapbox perhaps right now, I am with you. We all should be concerned about debt. And the proposal that we are providing to council is concerning. It's a magnitude of infrastructure investment which this city has not seen in many cycles. I've been talking about that for 2 years. When I took this role as interim, one of my first meetings, I went back and looked at minutes, was we need to change the way we invest in infrastructure in this city. And we're going to start that. You said, Matt, we need a CIP plan. We tried to create a CIP plan. It's still a work in progress. We're working through that. But that is the forethought of why are we doing investments in our community? Why are we doing investments in infrastructure? We need to do it. We haven't been doing it, perhaps. Now's the time to do it. It costs a lot of money to do it. You all, I think, are going to be great guidance to us as to what we should do and when we should do it moving forward. You don't need these resolutions to tell me how to do it or when to do it. You already have that power to do that. And you should be protective of our debt capacity and all of the things that go into making sure we understand why and when and to what magnitude will we bind this community in the form of debt service payments or translate that to taxpayer costs. Because again, I'll say it right now, as I said during our capital meetings, we are not proposing any tax increase as part of these proposals. But over time, Mr. Renacci and others who have said this are absolutely correct. When is the impact on taxpayers going to come about? When will we be saying, you know what, we've gotten to a point we need to raise taxes? We're not there, but over time, we need to be protective of those types of things. The same way, which is important on these critical infrastructure sides and utility areas, we are coming to you with proposals to raise rates. And that is vitally important. We can't do 2/3 of what's in the capital plan without those rate increases. Those rate increases come in the form of higher bills to our ratepayers, higher bills to our citizens, higher bills to your constituents, my neighbors, my friends, my family. But that's why you're there, folks. That's why you're elected in these positions. That's why I do what I do, the directors do what they do. We need to work together to solve these issues for our community, and I think we can. I'm very excited to do that with you all. I just think these types of resolutions are not needed. You can tell us why you believe or don't believe in something. You have that power today. You've had that power in the past. You have that power moving forward. We get guidance from municipal professors. Kathy does a wonderful job in helping making determinations with us. We have internal mechanisms of borrowing, external mechanisms of borrowing. I hope you understand how much we work hard to get grants and other sources of funding. We do the things that I think our community expects of us to make these investments in infrastructure. Debt is just one of those tools. To limit this community's ability to issue debt for issues or projects that are important to this community or important to you all is a mistake.
All right, I would
Talk
add,
too much.
Look, you should go to Washington and do that speech.
Thank you,
All right,
Mr. Ray.
because the problem that exists, and I 100% agree with you, is, yeah, there are certain things that need debt. And when they have payer sources, they always should. And the infrastructure, and by the way, you're exactly right. When you raise rates, I brought this up in a meeting, you're taxing people, which is not an income tax, you're taxing them. The problem is, you shouldn't be taxing people on things that aren't required. Citizens are struggling every day to make ends meet, and we're putting loans on parks that could be done over 10 years, not 2 years. And quite frankly, the ballparks down in, I mean, I don't want to get on a soapbox, but you're right, you're never going to get the Brickyard done, but I'm not sure the Brickyard should be an asset that needs to be done in the next 1 or 2 years. It's probably something that can be done over the future. And if you really believe that people support that, let's put a park levy out and see how much they support it. I mean, you put a park levy out and it fails, you'll find out how much they support these parks. And that would be your better test than what we're doing right now, which is risking income tax dollars down the road. Because you put a $17 million park down in the Brickyard, you're going to have to pay for that again someday, probably in 10, 12, 15 years. That infrastructure, you're tagging on a cost over and over and over again when you put this new infrastructure out here. So you shouldn't be afraid of this. This is a resolution that just says, hey, City Council is saying we don't really want you to borrow for it. And if you come up with a project and you say, well, you know what, we're going to have to borrow for it, then you come to City Council and say, guess what? We need to borrow for this. And then City Council, instead of putting it on our side, you put it on your side, then City Council can then decide whether they agree with you to borrow on certain things. That's the only difference. These resolutions put the burden on you versus putting the burden on City Council, because we're saying we're trying to protect the citizens' taxpayer dollar, and we do not want you putting debt out there, especially on parks. That's why that was a separate one, but also on non-critical assets without at least, if you want, come to City Council and say, guess what? We have an issue, and because of this issue, we may have to go against this resolution. City Council then can vote for it. But at least it's your job to tell us, not our job to tell you. So again, you shouldn't fear these resolutions. You should applaud.
Mr. Nacy, I do not fear any resolution.
Right.
I don't. I will work within the bounds of whatever my responsibilities are. And that's not what this is about. I do bring you these projects. You all have the power to say yes or no to projects.
Sometimes we bring you the projects, which we should be doing based
You're right,
on
Mr.
feedback
Yurcheck.
from our constituents. We could go back to the minutes of, it seems to me that this has turned into a parks discussion, and that is the overriding subject of this. And there are several people sitting up here that when we were in the middle of that parks project, and I remember it clearly, when it was under budgeted, everyone sat up here and said, we have to get this done. We don't care what it costs. Our constituents, these are our taxpayers, and we said we would do these park projects. I just don't understand why we need them. And I'm also offended that this stuff is happening behind other council members, and then it comes out in an email where we shouldn't even be discussing it.
We did.
You didn't. You most certainly did. You just said you did. Certain members of this council put these resolutions together, and then you sent it out to everyone and asked for feedback.
Yeah.
Which we shouldn't be doing in an email, number one.
To me, you can.
Sure you can.
It goes to an entire group. We're all discussing
You
it.
can send it to me individually.
I send it to President Council. That's the way it's supposed to work. I wish I could get all you on and document. I can't. If I do that, I'm violating the sunshine law.
Sure.
But I can send it.
There were several comments on that when it went out.
What's that?
No, I didn't see any comments. I just saw, will somebody co-sponsor with me? That's all.
Yeah, that's all I saw. I would co-sponsor, exactly what I
I'm not sure what's going on in the background, but it is getting very disturbing.
So I think what you're referring to is we sent it out to see who would like to co-sponsor it. I was looking for sponsorship on
Okay,
that.
well, that's fine.
Yeah. And if I may, just for the record, council did approve a Parks Master Plan to be done. We did not approve the final outcome. There was never any legislation. I had our clerk of council look everything up. The last one that was approved by council, a master plan, was in 1985, I believe.
07.
07? Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm going back too far. But that was the last time council approved a Parks Master Plan. Not to get too technical, but, you know.
I would
there's a
also
record.
add, I mean, again, if I'm going to respond to you then. So there was an approval of, I think, 1.9 million of parks dollars for, which park are we talking about? I lose track.
Freed Park.
Freed Park.
Which one?
Freed Park.
Freed Park. But there was never any way to pay for it. So who approved the paying for it? Where's the approval? I've asked everybody on council, I've asked people when I walk up to them, hey, we approved that park, how are you going to pay for it? I mean, are you going to put debt on it? I mean, that park's already started. Who's going to pay for it? If you're going to, if the administration is going to bring a park to you, or you are going to bring a park to the administration, and you're going to do a plan, at least put a plan out that says, here's what it's going to cost, here's how we're going to pay it, and here's the timetable. I saw that parks plan. I spent all Sunday reading that parks plan. It's a long parks plan, but it talks about a lot of things that need to be done. Great. But it doesn't say about how they're going to be paid for, and it doesn't say about the timetable. So if you're going to put a master plan out, put it out right, so that the citizens of Wadsworth say, hey, here we got this amount of parks that need to be done, and here's the way we're going to do it. I mean, I still remember when the Steiner Center was there, and I had 400 or 500 people complaining they wanted that Steiner Center redone. Well, the problem was, at that time, there were 21,000 residents in the city, and 400 people were directing what 21,000 people were going to pay for. I think the answer is, you really want to get this stuff done? Put a park levy out. Yeah, it's an initial tax, but you'll get the citizens' response at that point in time, and you'll determine whether they want to pay for these parks, and including the 1.9 that we just paid for, because that's coming out of the general fund ultimately, because that's the only payer source. And we better be careful on taking payer sources that are coming out of the general fund eventually, maybe long-term, whatever, because we're going to put this city on a position of having raising income taxes, which is, you know, that's the other thing I hear. You guys are going to raise the income tax. Well, you know what? Here's the other answer. Well, every other city's got their income tax higher than us. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's just run a city that's efficient and effective. I love parks. I think parks should be part of a master plan. I just don't think they should be done in 2 years or 3 years. And I think what happens is, without having a resolution, City Council has approved some things without determining how they're going to be paid for. That's my opinion over the last 3 months that I've been here, because nobody has told me yet how this 1.9 million is going to be paid for. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. How's it going to be paid for? You approved it. You were one of the people who approved it. How's it going to be paid for?
And I've looked through the budget, John.
I understand. So this is a parks discussion, right? It's not critical.
Well, no.
So what about the comment about the airport and all that? I completely understand what you're saying. I just don't. I agree with Mr. Hiscock in the sense that I don't think we need a resolution to be able to do this. We can have discussions about this, and everyone can get better at what they're doing, and you bring up valid points, as does Mr. Hiscock, as does a lot of people on council. But I don't think the resolution as written is perfect. He brought up several points there that I hadn't even thought about, that, you know, because is the airport critical?
Perfect. I 100% agree. No resolution is perfect. All it is a guide. But a resolution is a guide. It's telling administration we don't want this. Hey, we got 7 members here. If
Sure.
you don't get the support of the resolution, there's no resolution. I think the community is the one that loses out, because then the community does, you know, they now have to hope. You've got a city council here that's talking about this. The airport's a separate thing. This has nothing to do with it. That's why the airport's a separate resolution. Because you're right, it's not a critical infrastructure, and the airport resolution was drafted because of our one meeting. So separate item, separate issue.
Okay, I have several members who would like to co-sponsor this, or what do we do with the resolution?
What's that?
I make a motion that we move to the council agenda.
Second.
And
You need a co-sponsor?
need a co-sponsor.
I'll co-sponsor it too.
I'll co-sponsor.
I'll co-sponsor both of them.
Me too.
Jan. Who else? David? On both of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got a resolution number?
For number 6, it'll be resolution number 25-06.
And number 7?
Would be 25-07.
Okay. And then the next one, number 8, was a resolution, I think the work study group, which I think we had 4 members from council on that. I wasn't in attendance. Would you like to speak on that?
Mr. Parrish, since
Yes,
you...
the airport is in my ward, and I've noticed and worked with them because there's many deficiencies through actions and inactions of the past administrations. We have not collected rent since May of 2019, and that's an ongoing issue that should have been taken care of in some way or form. Through the actions and inactions, it looks like it's going to be quite a long time before we get to that point. Other issues have taken care of, but we've lost, when I've been told, we've lost 2, possibly 3 large employers because the airport was not significantly upgraded enough or able to support them. That's an economic issue that we need to make sure that we have available. Looking at, I'm going to look to that little town to the north, about the same size as us, Medina. 20 years ago, there was no SFS, there was no foundations, there was no controls, there was no of those industries and those employers, and Nelson just came in, as well as Pride One across the street that came in, and because the airport are there, a lot of them are international business, because they're taking care of it. They have a much larger area. They have over 300 acres that they maintain and they mow, where we don't have that, but we've put money into it in the past, over about $1.8 million of taxpayer money, not that much of it is the cities. And then there's other issues like how much money we can get funding per year, up to $150,000. And from the financial information that I was given over the last 3 years, we only received a very small amount compared to that $150,000 we can use have a year. We need to inform the administration that it is important, that the airport is important, and its economic viability is important. And I'm sure that we can find a way to make it break even, if given that, because we only pay 5% of all improvements. 5%. 95% comes from the state and the federal government. Okay. So we need to make sure that they understand that this is important and we need to take care of these issues and not duck them.
Thank you. Any other comments from the work session?
Well, the only thing I could say is this resolution isn't about debt. It's about directing the administration to get a couple of things done that I think are important, at least from what we talked about at the airport. So, and it talks about 95% can be, it talks about grants, and it talks about getting as much money as you can from the FAA. But I think what it really does is put some timetables. I mean, the best example is the fuel tank system. I mean, that fuel tank system goes away, and that airport's dead, done, because that's the only source of revenue. So, you know, why are people, I mean, I understand we have a company down there running it, but I can tell you, without fuel, you're going to see planes leave, you're going to see them leave, you're going to have a vacant airport. So right there's a priority that there's also money for. And I think City Council, especially for number 12, should make that a priority, should say that's a priority, so the administration knows it's a priority, and there's funds available. They have to be applied for by December 31st, and we should be getting that done. So there are certain things on here that I think are just improvements that need to be done. There is funding for them, and I don't see this as a debt thing. I see this as, you know, maybe City Council saying that the airport does have what we believe some viable opportunities for it if it's a viable airport. And I would be very supportive of this resolution too.
Mr. Stegmeyer, you were in that meeting. Any comments?
No, I agree with everything. I think
Okay.
it's everything on here is necessary.
And
I was in the meeting.
You were in the
I was in the
meeting,
meeting, and we discussed every one of these 12 items and everything, and put dates and times to them to, you know, make them happen. I mean, it's work that needs to be done that's kind of been pushed by the wayside.
Sure. Anybody else? I recall that was the 4. Any comments?
Mike was in the
Mike?
meeting.
Yeah,
Yes,
Mr. Testa.
so I oversee the airport operations, and just a couple of points. You mentioned about the concern with general fund dollars and you know, spending those monies on parks when it's also competing for police and fire. I do want to remind council that we subsidize the airport with income tax dollars close to $200,000 a year. So these are the same dollars that are going to the airport that are not going to police and fire. I would also suggest that there's a relatively small percentage of residents and business users in Wadsworth that are ever involved with the airport. I think, Mr. Renacci, you had a pretty good idea about the levy. Maybe this should be funded as an enterprise fund, in that the people that use the airport pay for the airport, or we put a separate levy on to see if the community's interested in supporting the airport. Since I've been here, we've subsidized the airport. I anticipate, as I prepare its budget every year, that we will continue to subsidize that. And I understand the argument that, hey, we can leverage 95% of state and federal dollars to support the airport. But at the end of the day, if the majority of citizens don't use the airport and they're not in support of the airport, if that were the case, then in essence, we're taking our portion of dollars that would otherwise go to police and fire, and now we're spending everybody's state and federal income tax dollars that flow to us through grants on something that the community may not support and may get very little usage. My recommendation, or what I would ask consideration of with council, is to look at some possible ways of us transacting business so the people that use the airport, the people that benefit from the airport, pay for the airport.
Can I ask you how many employees are at the airport right now?
How many
How many businesses and how many employees? Because you made a comment that there's no revenue return. There's 3 businesses down there. I've asked the question before, how many employees? The employees down there actually do contribute to the viability of the airport because they're employed down there. How many employees do we have at the airport?
So we have 0 city employees at the airport.
Oh, how many community businesses are there, and how many employees are at those businesses? I was told there's over 60 employees down there. People that are employed, that are paying income taxes to the city of Wadsworth for an airport. I know I've
How
asked.
many was that number, Mr.
What's that?
You said 60?
I was heard there were 60. And I asked.
the same number I heard.
60 full-time employees.
I was just
We're
told.
not collecting those types of payroll taxes on 60 employees.
Well, that's why I asked the question of the city at the meeting, how many employees are there? I know somebody said, well, we can't really determine that. Well, you could walk down there and find out, but you can't say that there's no dollars being brought in. And keep in mind that one industrial business that can land an airplane there and come to this city will pay for that shortfall and that you just brought up. So much different than a park, which has no payers. So let's make sure we're putting apples and apples together.
That's
2
fair.
industrial businesses is a windfall to the city. One of the reasons why the airport is an important asset to the city is because of the industries that could be brought to this city if the airport could land larger planes. Right now, it can't do it, which is one of the reasons why the 2006 plan was to extend the runway so we could get larger airplanes. Today, we have no large airplanes down there. We do have a helicopter business. We have a maintenance business down there. So, the citizens that are watching this, I want them to make sure there is business down there and there is a contribution back. And those businesses are buying fuel, all right? And the fuel also contributes, some of that fuel contributes back to the city, correct?
It
Some of
does.
Okay, so you made a statement that was false in the sense that this is a piece of property that does not return anything. It does return. I'd love to know how much it is, but we get fuel, and we have employees, and we have 3 businesses. So I'm not sure this is an asset that you can compare to a park.
Fair statement. My point was simply that there are ways to look at some other funding options. And again, because we've had the discussion about what's critical and not critical, my only suggestion to council would be to consider, is this something that the majority of residents would say is critical, or even something that they want to support at any level?
I believe they would if they understood that the possibilities of improving the payrolls, bringing in additional businesses, bringing in more additional economic opportunities. As I stated, Medina did not have those 4 businesses 20 years ago. And they built that industrial park next to their airport, and they bring in significant money. One's a Swiss company, and the 2 others do business all over the country. and that's one of the main reasons they moved there. So I think that possibility is here. If we maintain the airport and put forth effort and energy to make sure that it's viable economically, we will improve our economic opportunities for our student residents, very much so.
So, again, I appreciate those comments, Mr. Parrish. If council believes that, and you could very well be true, again, this could be an excellent candidate for an airport levy to gauge the community's interest and support in this.
Okay. Any other comments from council?
You can
Mr.
put levies
Renacci.
on a lot of things. I don't know why. I'd rather see the park levy first, because that'll be the one that'll be the real test. The airport, if you want to do a presentation of how much revenue comes in and how much expenses are, how much we could do to cover those losses, I agree with you. The airport should be a net zero to the city. Mm-hmm. But until we do certain things, it's never going to be a net zero. But you also got to take into consider the payroll that's down there and the opportunity for one business. One industrial business pays for that airport. So, if we want to turn our head to I always remember that the city needs industry, it needs commercial, it needs residential, it needs industrial. That always was a great primer to bring industrial growth into our city. And right now, we can't bring it in because the airport's not of a quality that you're going to get business to come here because of it. So the question is, do you invest to get it? But I mean, look, that's a great answer. If you put up a levy to if you put a levy up to the citizens for a lot of things, they'd vote no for it. If you put a levy up to build the fire station, they probably would vote no for it. If you levies are, there are certain things the city should do, fire, police, all those safety services we need to take care of. But at the same time, putting levies up for citizens who don't use an airport, they're not going to do it, so close it down. That's the other opportunity, close it down. Quit paying anything. I think it's a mistake, but if the administration really believes the airport's that bad, shut it down and just eliminate it totally. But remember, how much are you going to lose in business because you do it? That's the question you should answer more than anything.
And you would have to pay back all the grants that the federal and the state, that have to all be repaid. But I will make one comment to your point, Mr. Renacci. I was involved when the latest airport master plan was done, and by turning the runway, I don't know how many degrees to the west, it would open up a portion of the airport now that could be sold for development, which would be up against the south side next to 57. So there are other opportunities on the airport for small manufacturing. Just a point to add on to what you've said. Any other comments from the committee?
The only other thing I would say is, what on here is the city administration opposed to that the airport's asking to get done? The fuel tanks. Like I said, kill the fuel tank, you kill the airport. If that should be done. Some of these are safety issues. I got to tell you, if a plane comes down and you don't close that airport, and because you don't have the right approaches, that's a lawsuit. City will be sued for that. Yeah.
Yeah, again, to clarify, my ask of council would be to consider, are there other ways to fund the airport that would put more of the onus on airport users as opposed to the majority of residents who don't use the airport?
Again, and I'll end it here. I'm happy to see you don't like us losing money. I wish we would have been talking about the cable company at the same time, because there's an example of lost money that seemed to have just disappeared until we brought it back up. So if we're going to be looking at losses, let's look at losses across the board and make the right decisions for all of these entities. So.
Agreed.
I have a response to Mr. Renacci's question about what the administration takes issue with or those things. I don't think we take issue with any of the 12 items. I think some of your collective resolution language is questionable here. I don't think it takes into account, for instance, the deadlines. You're working with federal regulatory bodies on these grants and construction projects. To say that something's got to be done by June of '26 or July of '26, I think wholeheartedly disregards the fact that the city does not control its destiny in terms of the awarding of contracts or the awarding of FAA certified contractors in some of these. So I would take issue with these deadlines, which are just wholly unrealistic. I think some of these items are in your '26 proposed budget already. So hopefully you'll be pleasantly surprised about those items. I think we've already taken steps to apply for funding for the improvement of the fuel system, which is being used currently down there. So I think some of these things, I don't want to say that I agree, Mr. Renacci, with your summary that we're against any of these items.
Well, no,
think
I asked you which ones you were against, if any.
Yeah, and so what I'm saying is I don't think we're against any of them. I disagree with that. I think, again, these are items that have been talked about at the Airport Commission. These are items that we're taking action on. So again, I don't need a resolution to tell me to take action on some of these things. But what you do have in here is some unrealistic deadline dates where the city doesn't control its destiny on it. For instance, the AWAS system, it's got to go through a year worth of regulatory work at the Detroit resident agency of the FAA before we get authorization to spend those dollars. So I don't, some of these things, again, I think are unrealistic in terms of
The only thing I would add, because you weren't at the
aspirational
meeting,
intent.
but if you were at the meeting, we did bring up those dates, and we said best guess, and...
So these aren't hard and fast dates?
What's that?
These are not hard and fast dates?
No. Yeah, and I think that's the way it was explained at the meeting. What's the best date that we can try and get this done by? And then we even cushioned it and threw some, so if it doesn't happen, and it's not your fault, it's not your fault.
And some of the things that we discussed during that Airport Commission special meeting that's listed here that you just stated was in the 2026 budget, was in the 2024 budget and 2025 budget.
Like what, Mr. Goblin?
The PAPI lights, okay, we've talked about those in public ways for 3 or 4 years. And they've never come forward.
They're moving through the process, you understand that?
But is
So,
the process 3 or 4 years long? It was
apparent-
ignored, I feel,
Well,
okay?
that's an opinion, and I can't answer that. I was not in those positions at those times. So, I mean, the PAPI process, we report on it on a monthly basis in those meetings. So that goes with AWAS too, when there's action on it, so.
Okay, council, what would you like to do?
Move it to the agenda.
Second.
Well, who'd like to sponsor it?
I will.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'll sponsor.
Amy? Anybody else? Mr. Renacci, do you?
If you're looking for sponsors, I'll sponsor it too.
Okay.
How many do you need?
All right. We'll just move it forward. What's the resolution number?
That'll be 25-08.
I'll take us to the top of our draft legislation, item number 1. Ms. Figgs.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is an annual resolution that the county requires us to return to them by October 31st, so it can go 2 readings. It's basically estimating and accepting the amounts and rates for property tax levies, and that's pretty much it. That's a brief summary. Are there any questions?
I think you guys will recall we do this every year.
Yep.
It's a requirement. Who would like to sponsor that?
I will.
You will, okay.
That'll be 25-09.
And you have number 2 as well? Item
Yes.
Number 2?
Thank you. As you know, we finance internally notes. There are 33 renewals. These are renewed annually. The interest rate on the summary is listed at 3.75%. There is a 34th ordinance for the sewer lining project. That one is unique because it was actually, it has a special call feature in it. We will be taking it external when we issue the external debt in December because the amount needed is 1.1 million. The general rule of thumb for the internal notes is that we limit the borrowing to 10 to 15% of our cash balances so that we don't overextend on those internal notes. And we limit the term to 10 years and $750,000. So that's the other reason that this was limited to $750 last year, and we weren't doing an external debt issuance, so we carried it internally. So again, those are renewals. $6.2 million is the total. We will have 3 new internal notes that will be coming to you in November. Once we see that the spending is actually going to occur this year, we will bring those 3 new internal notes to you as well. Any questions?
I just have one question. 25-144, the outdoor pool, how much is the borrowing on that?
I'm sorry, 25?
-144, 2013 outdoor pool.
226, there's 226.03 principal left on that. That's,
Yeah,
226,000 worth of principal left on that, Mr. Anese.
I believe it was around $1 million when we
Original.
first took out the note.
So there's an example. That was an outdoor, that's the outdoor pool up next to Steiner.
Correct.
And some city council approved it, and they must have approved internal notes.
Yes.
Okay.
Prior to, I think, around 2015, we were doing longer than 10 years and more than $750,000. We implemented an informal policy to limit the term and the amount of those internal notes.
While you're on that subject, we did some improvements to the pool. Was it with internal money or general fund money?
Recently? Pool?
Within the last 5 years.
So typically, it's been, comes out of Fund 204, which is the fund set up for the community center.
Community center.
And the pool.
For the
and
Y.
It was minor work, although this year in the budget, and they'll be starting the work probably either later this month or November. They'll be replacing what's called the skimmer baskets. You can kind of think of it as where the water kind of goes in at the side of the pool and it's filtered. Those things have been in disrepair, and those will be fixed this year.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right.
NECA would like to sponsor those. You and Mr. Corral?
And those can go 3 readings, correct?
Yes.
So the request is to read them
Those you
all.
don't have any choice. Those
Pretty
are-
much
those-
not.
Those are already
Those
done.
are debt that's already been approved, already
Yep.
being paid, you're just renewing.
Yeah. We can't really,
What?
because some of them are so old, we can't really take them external.
Yeah.
There's no option.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And we're going to run those all together, not individually, and we'll have one vote. Okay. All right. Item number 3.
Okay. Yes, we have Mr. Tom Rasciuto from Baker Tilly here. He's going to do a short presentation on the 25 debt issuance. I know there's been discussion about the 26 debt issuance. He can answer, I believe, some general questions about that, but he's really here to cover those 8 ordinances for the 2-year notes that will be taking out to the market. So we can have Mr. Brian Cooper back for presentation on the 2026 discussions on a later date, and if there's further analysis you'd like to see done on the 26 debt.
The only question I have, 25-170, 1,930,000. No. Yeah, that's the freed part. So this council, not this council, some council approved $1,930,000 to be spent on Freed Park. And there was no source of funds. So now you're asking to have the source of funds be approved as an outside debt.
Mr. Renacci, I looked for appropriations or supplemental appropriations, and I could not find a $1.9 million supplemental appropriation for these funds.
So this project was in the capital list in the 25 budget book. The expenditures were. At the time that the budget book was produced, it was not listed in the notes and bonds in the back, because as this is now, they're producing the budget book this week, next week, and those 26 debt numbers had not been established when that budget book was produced last year. So council did approve the project, and I don't know if there was discussion about how that project was going to be funded. I haven't looked back, but that was the plan. It was in the general fund cash reserve policy as a line item with general obligation debt to be issued.
So this is the perfect example why the resolution would be important, and that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. You wouldn't have been able to do this without coming to City Council and saying, we are going to improve Freed Park by $1,930,000, and we do want to put outside debt on it. Mm-hmm. And City Council would have then had to agree to that. So the resolution, in my opinion, would have stopped this from happening without us knowing in advance. Correct? Well, you couldn't have done it. You couldn't have done it without debt, so you would have had to use cash.
So what, Mr. Renacci, you're making a statement like we didn't advise anyone of how we were doing it. We had OD&R grants that were discussed about it. We talked about how it was. While it didn't appear in the budget book, many things won't appear in the budget book until you finalize your budget at the end. And then so it was anticipated that would be a debt issuance. That was out there. It was not something that we said no to or hid away from, just like many of the other capital projects which appear in the budget book in the 2 pages right before the notes and bond section. Many of those were not identified specifically as debt issuances, but they appear in the debt issue.
So you're telling me that everybody on this dais, when they voted for the 1.93, they also voted for the 1.93 in debt, yet I'd like to know how many people on this dais knew there was going to be 1.93 with the debt. Now, they don't have to answer because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I've talked to individuals who said they did not know this was going to be 1.93 debt. So, again, that's the only reason I bring it up. When you vote for something, you've got to vote for not only the cost, but the sources of funds too. And again, hate to keep bringing this stuff up, but here's a perfect example.
Anything else? Who would like to sponsor that?
Would you like Mr. Rasciuto
Yes, please.
to do
That's perfect
his
timing.
presentation? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and members of council. My name is Tom Ricciuto. I'm with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. We serve the city, myself and Brian Cooper, as was previously mentioned. And we have a quick presentation here for you, but please feel free to jump in with any questions or comments that you may have. Certainly don't need to wait till the end. Most of you probably know what a municipal advisor is, but in the event that you don't, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, we serve the city and we act on the city's behalf. We have a fiduciary duty to the city, so we have two main roles that were passed as a law in 2015. We have a duty of care and a duty of loyalty, and so that means we have to put our interests, or your interests, the city's interests, above our own when making any sort of recommendations. And also, when we provide recommendations, they have to be suitable to the city. We want to make sure that the products that we recommend or the strategies that we recommend make sense, and that it's not just cookie cutter and everybody does it the same way, but we want to make sure that we're serving the city well in that capacity. And so some of the things that we do, certainly this isn't an exhaustive list, but we develop plans of finance. We provide recommendations on the structure and the timing for debt issuances, being bonds or notes. We also assist in receiving proposals from underwriters in case there's any ideas out there, be it refinancings, or in the case that there's a capital plan and an underwriter needs to be selected, we assist with that RFP process as well. We go through and we analyze that data. We talk about it with Kathy and the finance team, and we also advise on the method of sale for selling securities, be it competitive issuances, negotiated issuances, or private placements. And so some of the goals and objectives for this contemplated 2025 notes is that it's going to fund a number of items, some of them being park improvements and water improvements, city hall, parking, sewer system improvements. There's a whole list on the next page that will show for all eight ordinances that are available. And so with this, there's a note issuance, and typically a note issuance is about 6 to 12 months. This one is going to be a little bit different, but it does have some advantages. It's going to be a 2-year note issuance, and it can be prepaid without penalty at any time. And really the idea of it is, in the event that some of the financing items and some of the projects, if they're not necessarily ready to be taken out to bond yet because the scope of it hasn't been completely finalized yet, you don't have to reissue bonds the subsequent year, incur more costs, and subject yourself to interest rate risk. And so with this, these bonds also, or these notes, excuse me, they don't have to have disclosure documents associated with them that you might typically see, that being an official statement. And also, there's not necessarily a rating needed from this perspective. So there's also some cost savings along those lines as well. And so to get a little bit more granular with the plan of finance, as I mentioned, there's the 8 ordinances that are up here. We provided the not to exceed amount for each of these. This is just going to be a little bit more than the actually anticipated project amount, and that's just due to the fact that we like to be conservative and also add in the costs of issuance just in case, and we kind of prorate that to each purpose here. And we also show, and so you can see the total here is about 10.015 million. It actually is going to be closer to about 9.9 million in reality. And with this, we also show the maximum maturity, and I apologize, I meant to send out a table that showed for the park improvements, it's an 11-year maximum maturity. It currently shows TBD. But as it is, with these, this doesn't necessarily indicate the length of the borrowing. It just, as it relates to Ohio Revised Code, the maximum maturity that they could be taken out to borrow with. In reality, we would likely have the maximum maturity be 20 years on a bond issuance once these notes were taken out. So currently a 2-year note, and then with the anticipation that those proceeds would be turned into bonds 2 years down the road and borrowed at a maximum maturity length of 20 years. And with that as well, the tax status we anticipate would be tax exempt, and an estimated rate for these notes at this point in time, it would be somewhere in the ballpark of 4%, but once you bake in the cost of issuance, that it's closer to about 4.31% at this time. But bear in mind, obviously, the market's dynamic. It moves on a day-to-day basis, so these rates can change, but this is just a current estimate as of last week. And so just to look at historical interest rates from a tax-exempt perspective, this is the 10-year tax-exempt rate over the course of the last 10 years. And so you can see that we have a slight upward trend. We're currently not at our high either, but really what you see that dip between 2020 and 2022, that's COVID. Likely that those rate in that market environment is not coming back anytime soon. But this is just giving some historical perspective that we're not necessarily at the all-time high or the all-time low, but rates have ticked up over the course of the last 4 to 5 years. And just to provide a little bit more context, we typically look at interest rates on a 1 to 30-year perspective, and the black dotted line shows from years 1 to 30 where rates are currently at right now, and it's compared to where rates have been at over different points in time over the course of the last year. So again, this is just going to show that rates are not necessarily at their highest, they're not necessarily at their lowest, they move on a daily basis, but we're currently in between. We're right about at the median or the average of where we've been at over the course of the last 12 months. So last but not least, this is just a schedule of events that we anticipate over the course of the next about 2 months or so. Ultimately, there's going to be a number of readings, ordinance readings for the notes, with final passage anticipated to be on November 5th. And then ultimately, we look to get a proposal for the notes sometime in the first to second week, call it November 11th. And then once we get those proposals, review them and finalize it and award it, we anticipate to close on December 3rd and receive proceeds on that day. And so with that, I can pause there, see if there's any questions.
Can I ask one question? On a $10 million borrowing, what's the cost to the city?
Sure. So in total or on an annual basis?
No, in total, issuance costs. I'm talking about, not the interest cost.
Oh, issuance costs?
The issuance cost on any, and I just use 10 million because it's an easy number.
Sure. So for the note, I don't know if we have it finalized yet, but I would anticipate somewhere between $60,000 and $75,000 in issuance costs for the note. And then for a long-term bond issuance, I would say the estimate would probably be somewhere in the ballpark of $125,000 to $150,000.
Maximum maturity. Please explain that. What
Sure.
does that mean?
So the Ohio Revised Code allows for certain different projects to be borrowed for a certain length of time. And so, for example, sewer lining and sewer pipes, they have a long useful life. And so the length of time that they're legally allowed to be borrowed for is 40 years. Some assets have a shorter useful life. Let's say, for example, a fire truck, that might be 10 years. And so you're allowed to borrow for a maximum of 10 years. And really what that does is it prevents a municipality from borrowing for something and paying for it well beyond its useful life. So oftentimes they'll have a maximum maturity or a maximum, let's say, of 40 years, but the borrowing may in fact be less than that, maybe 20.
The reason I ask is the $550,000 for the looping project. Over 40 years, the interest alone at 4.13 would be $619,000 more than the actual cost. So what is how long will that note last, or how long will that bond last?
So the bond would at this point we anticipate wouldn't have, the maximum final maturity would be 20 years that we would actually issue it with. So let's say if we issued it today in 2025.
So 20 years, it would be, I don't have 20 years, but
Yeah.
it's $16,000 for that year alone. And it's and that's decreasing. So it starts at $22,000 and goes to $16,000. So it's about $17,000, $18,000 a year. I would have to do the math.
And I do have some individual reports too that I can pull up as well.
Okay. So 18,000 times 20 equals $360,000. It's over half will be in interest.
Yeah, generally speaking, in this rate environment, again, this is just a generality, is not hard and fast. For a 20-year issuance, I would anticipate that the principal amount would be equal to about the interest amount over the life of the bonds. Correct.
Okay.
So roughly double. So if you have a, just by way of example, a $10 million issuance, it should be total principal and interest of about $20 million.
Any other questions from council? Any comments from administration? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
You hand that to Christian.
Okay, let's finish up our review. Let's see, you're going to take that one, Ralph.
Yeah, I'll pick it.
Number 3.
Who's taking this one, Ralph? I said, who's taking this one, Ralph?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, you want to take
And
number
it's going to be good. It's
Three
gonna be
readings.
3 readings.
Two.
Then we have item number 4, personal services. Who'd like to take that?
Mr.
Yeah.
President, I can speak to that. Regarding ordinance number 4, in 2022, the Wadsworth Police Department applied for and received a grant that was through the ARPA Violent Crime Reduction and Recruitment and Retention Grants that was offered through the state of Ohio. As a part of that, we were allowed to apply for up to 10% and give that to officers and dispatchers as a part of a retention program. As I mentioned, we applied for and received that grant. As a part of that, officers and dispatchers that accepted it agreed to stay with the city for 36 months, or if they left earlier, they would have to pay a prorated amount of that grant back. During the scope of the grant, we had 3 officers and 1 dispatcher leave. So this is essentially, we had those officers and that dispatcher had to pay those funds back. Some of it were able to come out of their sick and vacation leave banks. Others had to actually pay them back. We have those funds, but because they have been accepted and now would be used for a different purpose than the grant, i.e. the paying back of those funds, I need to actually have an appropriation in the amount of $19,778.91 so that we can return the funds to the state per the terms and agreements of our grant.
Any questions from council?
I'll suspend the 3 reading rule on that.
Okay.
That'll be ordinance number 25-175.
And the next one has to do with the general development requirements. Mr. Yurchak,
I'll just move that to second.
second. Okay.
That'll be 25-176.
Okay. Any comment from, thought I saw him in the audience. Mr. Morris, any comment on that?
This was the condominium development. I have a comment to suggest.
Okay, we'll just move it to second. All right, and then we have one more, it has to do with the executive session and the contract with the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association regards to this sergeants and dispatchers. Any questions? There'll be 25-177.
Correct.
Mr. Copley, let's see.
Yes, I'll suspend and call.
All right, now we have a couple speakers. Would you like to introduce them, Mr. Baughman?
Thank you, Council. I'm excited to introduce first Ryan Nelson, our investment advisor. After an extensive process of looking at over a dozen investment advisory groups, we are happy to select Ryan of Red Tree Investment Group. We just felt like his professionalism and his want to understand and communicate and understand our financial picture as a whole, we felt like he was a great fit for us. So here is Ryan Nelson.
You're crunchy.
Thank you, Christian, and good evening, everyone. And we'll keep this brief to keep the meeting going along. We just started 29 days ago, so we're learning a lot about the city here. My name is Ryan Nelson. I'm with Red Tree Investment Group. I have David Donnelly here in the audience with me as well. And we have a brief presentation just as introduction and how we're going to be assisting the city. We're Red Tree Investment Group. We're a firm that is solely focused on investing public funds, primarily here in the state of Ohio. We're located down in Cincinnati, and we work with over 300 public entities here in the state of Ohio. We manage over $10 billion in public funds. I'm the co-founder of the firm, and I've been doing this for the past 25 years and serving public entities across Ohio. We became a partnership, as Christian mentioned. They did a thorough process of an RFP, and we were very fortunate to begin working with the city last month. We're assisting on a variety of different things here, but working on operating funds and investing those funds. Communication is extremely important to us. Learning about the city coming here tonight is very important to us. Reporting is big as well. We serve as the investment advisor. U.S. Bank serves as a third-party custodian. When there are securities purchased on behalf of the city, they hold the securities. There's someone that stands between us and the city that holds the funds. That's what you want as an advisor. There are main investment objectives for investing funds. It's all centered around a safety of principal, liquidity, risk, and finally a market rate of return, but keeping all of those in order keeps everyone out of trouble. The city does have an investment policy statement that states the types of investments that can be used and for cash and other types of investments. It mainly follows Chapter 135.14 of the Ohio Revised Code. And the last time the investment policy was updated was in 2017, but not much has changed in the Ohio Revised Code with the investments, so there's no really reason to jump through hoops to make a bunch of changes. What you see on the page up here behind me are the types of investments that they have at their discretion to invest funds. It is all centered around safety of principal. The maximum maturity is generally 5 years outside of the internal notes that Kathy talked about earlier as the types of investments. Not going to go through a big economic update, as we know that there's a lot going on in Washington right now with an economic government shutdown, so we're not getting a lot of economic news right now. So we're paying close attention to that. Tom did mention a chart on interest rates. We have seen interest rates in the markets come down over the past few months. The Federal Reserve has been active and did lower rates last month, and that is anticipated to continue here in 2025 and into 2026. So we are anticipating lower interest rates, and we're working with the city on that for future projections with interest income. Behind me is an overview of all the city funds. It is a mix between, as I mentioned, an investment portfolio that we assist on, the internal notes that Kathy was mentioning earlier, Star Ohio, which is the state-run investment pool. The city uses that as a liquidity function for the city. And then lastly, Huntington Bank serves as the main depository of funds for the city. Investment highlights, again, this is our 29th day in working with the cities. We've been learning a lot about what goes on here. We took over management last September. We went straight to work. There was some cash available from recent maturities. We went straight to work getting that invested, everything following the investment policy in the Ohio Revised Code. We did extend some maturities out there to take advantage of the higher interest rates were offered before they were falling, and that does offer still sufficient liquidity. This is something that we're working on the city with and CashFest, which we'll hear from in a moment, about what is a proper asset allocation, what makes sense to be in the investment portfolio, and what makes sense to be ultimate cash at Star Ohio or the local bank. So that is a work in progress. Going forward, it is still a fact-finding mission here about what we're doing for the city. We've been doing a lot of work already. Communication is key. We cannot do our job without an open line of communication with Christian and Kathy and Lori. We are going to be doing quarterly reviews with CashFest. We're working with Christian on setting up more regular investment reviews with perhaps folks here in the room tonight. But my main goal here tonight was to make an introduction to myself and to let you know that the city's funds are safeguarded and in a good spot. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep. And
So next up, I'm excited to introduce Tyler Frame, our liquidity advisor from 3+1. Tyler's done a lot for us, especially over the last year and a half, from the banking RFP, investment advisor search RFQ, and also weekly balance check-ins. So I'm excited to introduce Tyler Frame.
Thank you, Christian. Good evening, council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. We are grateful for the opportunity to serve the city of Wadsworth and many of your peers, including the city of Forest Park, New Albany, Huber Heights, Miamisburg, city of Dublin, and many others. I'm Tyler Frame. We're from CashFest by 3+1. And we always like to say that we're an extension of your finance team. So we work closely alongside Christian, Kathy, and Lori, and our job is to be an independent third party and ensure that you are maximizing your financial resources. So you just heard from Ryan and his team about how he's looking at investing your long-term cash. Our job at CashFest is to take an independent look under every rock and stone and identify from the moment that you collect a tax dollar to the moment that same tax dollar has to be spent, how long is it available for? Running that data through stress testing scenarios to ensure that, one, we have enough liquidity on hand to operate, pay payroll, pay for AP, pay for capital projects, but at the same time, to Ryan's point, making sure that we're leveraging all of the opportunities in the interest rate environment to ensure that years into the future, your taxpayer dollars are protected. So we're going to be working closely alongside Ryan and his team, providing independent stress test data to ensure that his team has the tools and resources to put the city's cash to work. And our job is to take a look more at the daily operations of cash management. As Christian mentioned, we helped you all with a banking services RFP. So we have a complementary service alongside CashFest called RFP Prep. And that takes all of the question marks out of going through a request for proposal process. We evaluated many different banking partners for the city. We made sure that a new banking partner was able to meet your service capability needs, confirm that the pricing was competitive, and also provided them marketplace data to get them to sharpen their pencils on pricing a little bit. Also, more recently, we did the request for quote for investment services, which Ryan and his team ended up winning, which we're excited about. We also help Christian, Kathy, and Lori on a weekly basis, ensuring that we're keeping an appropriate level of cash at the bank, and we're also maximizing the opportunity to earn a little bit more interest using Star Ohio, using allowable liquid investment tools with Redtree. We recently collaborated with your local bank and were able to update some account types, streamline balance management, and in total, those recent enhancements plus the enhancements through the banking services RFP have resulted in over $300,000 in additional annual revenue to the city and its residents. When we first started working together back in February of 2023, the city generated about $907,000 in annual interest revenue. We're excited to announce that over the last 12 months, ending July 31st, you all generated over $2.8 million on your operating cash for residents. So again, we are not a bank, we are not investment advisors. Ryan and his team are the licensed experts on what to actually do with the cash when we're ready to invest it. It's our job to work closely alongside them and the city's finance team to ensure that we have adequate liquidity. We're doing everything we can with it based on the data, not opinions, based on the data, and really working as an extension of your team, doing benchmarking, ensuring that you're utilizing all of the opportunities that the Ohio Revised Code allows for, and really celebrating your success. If there's one thing I've learned doing this for over 6 years, it's that you all don't get to show everything you're doing to your residents, and we want to be that voice to advocate for you and provide additional resources to ensure that the city of Wadsworth can provide for its citizens. Thank you. Any questions?
Good questions, yeah.
One question. You said you went from 900,000 to 2 million. Was it on the same capital? Because that's an excellent job if it was. The same return, same assets.
Same assets. The city's cash position has changed a little bit over time, and interest rates have changed, but we have implemented some strategies to optimize the return on cash, which has resulted in a portion of that increase. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Ms. Buffett, anyone else? No? Okay. We got one other item under other business, notification of a condemned property. Director Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will attempt to be brief, but our code enforcement officer, Mario Caruso, has really dug into this property on Grandview that for many, many years has been a nuisance to the other neighbors there. He has sent that formal notification to council and is requesting a public hearing, and that public hearing refers to the continued abatement of that property, and by abate, I mean potentially demolishing of that property. I won't give a full presentation, but just some quick highlights. The utilities have been off at this property. Electric was shut off in July of 23. Water was shut off in November of 23. There's been cycles of tax delinquency on this property. Not only was the electric turned off, but the electric had to be disconnected because of generators and other things used at the home that were actually causing alarms and problems in our own electric system. There was a fire there in 22. That fire actually damaged some of the neighbors' property. There was no home insurance. Those neighbors had to file suit. In talking with those neighbors, they've never been paid back for their expenses. So in August of this year, Mr. Caruso moved forward with an unfit for human occupancy letter, listed the violations to the resident at the property. He was given 30 days to abate those or 15 days to ask for an appeal. He asked for an appeal and was granted that appeal. Prior to that appeal, he conducted an administrative search warrant with the assistance of the police department, fire department, and health department. I would just say that there are numerous violations and very concerning violations in the home, to include egresses being blocked, a 20-pound propane tank heater that was in the room, anywhere from inches to feet of trash, rotting food, animals inside the home. Ultimately, that appeal was denied. And so the next stage of the process was for him to formally notify council, because you will have a role in that abatement process. And as a part of that, council may seek to have a public hearing. I would just say from our perspective, we have tried to take every step possible in this process. Mr. Caruso has worked a lot with our law department, has consulted with other municipalities that are engaged in this kind of work on a more regular basis. He's kept myself and the service director abreast of updates that have gone on. So at this point, we are asking for a public hearing. That public hearing would give an opportunity to the resident, also neighbors and others that are impacted. We could also have a presentation from Mr. Caruso that would go into detail the years of issues that this property has had and where it stands currently. Talking with Mr. Proudfoot, I don't believe that there is any specific requirements in terms of the timeliness of notices. So a possible suggestion could be at the next council meeting, and we would be happy to make notification to Mr. Bowling, the neighbors, and anyone else that would like to speak at that hearing. But obviously, Mr. President, that's up to you and the body.
I think that's appropriate. We'll put that on a public hearing for the next, we need a 30-day?
Do we?
No, it's a reasonable standard.
Okay.
And so giving 2 weeks, if we get that notice out fairly quickly, would be reasonable to get to the whole.
Okay.
I want to thank Director Chafin. I mean, this is going back, Director Hiscock, I know you were involved in it. I remember getting phone calls quite a bit. But again, thanks to our new enforcement officer, Caruso. Please pass that along from council to finally take care of this. And from Mr. Proudfoot on the law department's cooperation on this. Thank you very much.
Can I ask just a process question? Because it sounds like you shut the water off in 23 or 24. What takes so long? Because, yeah, this thing, I appreciate what you're doing, but boy, it'd be nice if something like this. I mean, once the house of water and all that shut off, the house is pretty well condemned anyway. What takes so long?
So I would say We have taken a different approach since we have both exchanged positions. I think there is a different approach on how Mr. Caruso has looked at the problem and how he has chosen to go about the problem. I think in the past, these individual items were taken to court and addressed, and essentially what would happen is this resident would fix them enough to get out from under the thumb of the court and sort of kick the ball down the road a little bit, kick the can down the road. We took a different perspective in identifying the numerous concerns that were at the property that were just visible from the exterior of the home to say collectively, we don't think we should attack these individually. Collectively, we think that this is unfit for human habitation, with a key component of that being the utilities taken off. And then also taking the extra step of doing the administrative search warrant, which got us inside the home, which just really opened up, I guess, what I would call a Pandora's box of issues inside the home. So while I can't necessarily speak to the delay before, I would just say that the gentleman next to me and myself both acknowledged that there was some delay before and felt strongly that we needed to take a different approach and pursue this.
Next door neighbor who first alerted myself on that, and I'm sure you've probably talked to him as well. And it's nice we can finally do something for that citizen and his family. If there's nothing else, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Will the regular meeting of Wadsworth City Council for Tuesday, October 7th, 2025, please come to order? Will you please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag and remain standing for the invocation?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, who has given us this good land to be our heritage, we acknowledge our dependence upon you for all things, and we thank you for all your blessings, including the right and privilege to govern ourselves in this free land. We pray that you would grant us all wisdom to make good decisions for the future of this community. Through Christ our Lord we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Copley?
Here.
Hines?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Renacci?
Here.
Rosbert?
Here.
Stugmeyer?
Here.
Yurcheck?
Here.
And Williams?
Here. You've all had the opportunity to review the minutes for the regular city council meeting on September 16th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes for the regular city council meeting on September 16th, 2025 are approved. Tonight, we have a proclamation from the mayor. I'd like to step forward.
I actually have the opportunity to provide two proclamations this evening. Both are for the same week. And we have a wonderful group here. We'll have Chief Linder and actually it looks like we lost a couple
Meeting ran a little long, they had to leave.
Well, you have a busy job and obviously duty calls at any time, and that's most likely what happened. But it's for a very special purpose. This week is Fire Prevention Week, and we are so fortunate to have a tremendous fire department, fire and EMS department, that are expert in their field and take care of us and are at a moment's notice for us. But it's wonderful to have a week for Fire Prevention Week to be able to remind us of things that we can do as residents to protect ourselves and our neighbors and property even more. So I have a proclamation on behalf of the Office of the Mayor, and I'll have Chief Linder over here. And it states, whereas in 2025, Fire Prevention Week theme is Charge into Fire Safety, lithium-ion batteries in your home. Aims to educate the public on the safe use of lithium-ion batteries in everyday life. And whereas the campaign emphasizes the importance of purchasing only products that are listed and certified for safety, charging devices properly, and recycling batteries responsibly. And whereas Fire Prevention Week serves as a vital reminder of the importance of fire safety in our homes, schools, and workplaces, and highlights the role of every resident can play in preventing fires and protecting lives. And whereas this annual observance provides an opportunity to recognize and honor the courageous service of our first responders, firefighters, emergency personnel, and other public safety officials who dedicate themselves to keeping our community safe. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Robin L. Labaugh, deem it a pleasure to proclaim October 5th through 11th, 2025 to be set aside and observed as National Fire Prevention Week. Signed and sealed this 7th day of October, 2025, Robin L. Labaugh. Thank you. Thank you. And we'd love to have some words from you.
Their faces got really white. So, thank you. On behalf of the fire department, we appreciate this, recognizing Fire Prevention Week. I know some on council, Mr. Copley is big in fire prevention, just as I was. Being able to prevent fires before they become an issue for us is very important. And as Mayor mentioned, this year's theme is the Charge into Fire Safety. So we, throughout this world, we're starting to get and use more lithium-ion batteries. Along with new technology changes, sometimes there are side effects that we don't want. And when lithium-ion batteries do have an issue, they can become very dangerous on that. So wanted to just give 3 safety tips for everybody that's here, everybody that's watching. With your lithium-ion batteries, we always recommend just buy listed products, whether they're UL listed, make sure that can go for any appliances. But with batteries, make sure they are listed. They have been safety tested. When you charge your devices, make sure that you're using the manufacturer chargers, the cords that came with them. A lot of times you can buy different cords everywhere. It was never tested for that product, and a lot of times those might not be made to the high quality standard that the manufacturer had with them. So make sure you use the appropriate device charger and the cords with that. When they are fully charged, a lot of times what happens, they stay on, people will leave them on there plugged in all the time. They can actually overcharge. So once it is charged, unplug it, get it ready, so it's not still charged in the charger. And then last, a lot of times we have seen, especially with the recycling, a lot of people just take the batteries and they just throw them in the trash. That's not good for the environment, and we can have issues. There's been a lot of fires that in recycling places that from lithium-ion batteries, when they go in there, whether they get damaged further in the transport to the trash recycling or they were damaged prior, when they get there, then they can cause fires. So we always recommend to recycle them appropriately. And one of the places that you can look at is, it's called Call to Recycle. They have a listing of areas where you can dispose of those. There are actually, I know Home Depot will take some, and Lowe's in this community also takes some of the lithium-ion batteries. But always good to check Call to Recycle first before you dispose of your batteries. So with that, again, as Fire Prevention Week, it was 100 years ago when President Coolidge made this a national observance where we recognize Fire Prevention Week. So we've been going on for 100 years. It's actually one of the longest public health issues that has been going on in our country. So it is extremely important, and we appreciate the recognition for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next one I have is for Public Power Week, the same exact week, October 5th through 11th. And we have our Service Director, Mr. Hiscock, to receive that on behalf of the Office of the Mayor. But I would just like to state that we are so fortunate, as preaching to the choir here, but we are so fortunate to have our own public power. That was one thing that I really wasn't have that particular knowledge prior to joining public service. I realized that that's what we had, but I didn't realize the impact, the importance of having our own system. I get quite a few comments, particularly from residents, but I will say the most impactful ones are coming from our businesses, because our businesses rely to be able to stay on, to stay functioning. They need to have their electricity, and when it's not working, it's not good. And when we are right here at a moment's notice to be able to help them when they have an issue, they're very, very appreciative of that. And so I've had quite a few compliments over the years from our businesses, and they recognize how fortunate we are to have our public power. So without any further ado, I'd like to offer this proclamation on behalf of the Office of the Mayor that states, whereas we, the citizens of Wadsworth since 1916, have placed high value on local control over community services and have chosen to operate a community-owned, not-for-profit electric utility company. As both consumers and owners, we have a direct role shaping utility operations and policies. And whereas Wadsworth Electric and Communications provides reliable, efficient, and cost-effective electricity and communications to our homes, businesses, and social services and local government agencies using sound business practices to ensure the best possible service at not-for-profit rates. And whereas, in addition to electricity, Wadsworth Electric and Communications takes pride in managing the community's information infrastructure, offering broadband, internet, cable, TV, home area networks, and telephone services. This expansion has created new opportunities for community and economic development. And now, therefore, be it resolved, Wadsworth Electric Communications is a dependable, trustworthy institution. Its loyal operations ensures numerous consumer protections while continuously improving our community, making it a better place to live and work. And be it further resolved that I, Mayor Robin L. Labaugh, deem it a pleasure to proclaim October 5th through 11 to be designated as Public Power Week in the City of Wadsworth, encouraging all of our residents to join with communities over the 2,000 public power systems across the United States and celebrating public power. Signed and sealed the 7th day of October, 2025. Robin L. Labaugh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On behalf of Superintendent Parrish, who was unavailable this evening to accept the proclamation, on behalf of the Electric Division and the Substations Division, I want to say thank you. I think, you know, it's easy for myself and others in our community to take for granted when we wake up in the morning and flip that switch and the lights come on and you don't even think about it. When you make sure that you have the power you need to provide safety to your family, to your businesses, to folks in your lives, it's easy to look past these particular services. I think our community is a better community because of the work of our power division. I think our community gets great benefits from having our own public power. I think you all know that. You've been advised of the great work that those folks do on behalf of all of us. So on behalf of the division, thank you very much for acknowledging Public Power Week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite our Economic and Development Director, Tom Morris, to speak about the ordinance. We're going to hold a public hearing tonight on ordinance number 25-118 with regards to amending the DORA boundaries. Will the clerk please
Read the
read the
title.
ordinance?
An ordinance amending the boundaries of the downtown Wadsworth designated outdoor refreshment area, DORA, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. President. About a couple months ago, I was approached by Wadsworth Commons about expanding the DORA. It was not included on the original DORA, obviously, because it was the middle school. But that property has transferred hands now, so it's my understanding that that group is now seeking a liquor license, and that group has great plans for the outside as well as the inside for renovation that would make it appropriate to be included in our DORA. In order to expand the DORA, it's the same as creating the DORA. There needs to be an application, there needs to be a spreadsheet with all the properties, there needs to be maps, there needs to be engineer certification, there needs to be proper signage, and there needs to be, the last component would be council approval with a public hearing, and that's what we're doing here today. Attached to the legislation is the new map. The only difference is it is including the property that was formerly owned by the Wadsworth City School District and moved over to the Wadsworth Commons. Just as an FYI, every 6 months or so, I ask the safety department, has there been any problems related to drunken disorderly or something that could be attributed to the DORA? And to date, I've heard none. I always also ask the service department, is there anything that caused from the DORA for trash or other problems that caused? There has been none to date. So all we're doing is asking for that addition to include the Wadsworth Commons property that was the former CIS.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments from council? Then I'd like to open the council hearing for the public comment. Any speakers may come to the podium one at a time. State your name and address for the record. We ask to keep your comments brief, about 3 minutes. Seeing no one, the public hearing for ordinance number 25-118 is now closed. Per the rules of council number 17, council typically does not vote on legislation on the night of the public hearing. Thank you. Are there any visitors in the audience who would like to address council? Please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments brief, 2 to 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jay Adarisi. I live at 318 Amy Way. I've been a resident since 1998 here in Wadsworth. I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank all of you for the hard work that you do for our community. I love this community so very much, deeply ingrained and been involved in many things, youth sports, high school coaching, Knights of Columbus with Sacred Heart, so I really love Wadsworth. But I'm here to talk briefly about the disc golf course, so a lighter topic than what you guys have been talking about. I just wanted to give you a few facts about disc golf and then the popularity of the Wadsworth course itself, and then give you maybe some things to consider and then a few asks. So the statistics come from UDisc. UDisc is the application that almost all disc golf users use, and they have a website. There are more than 16,000 courses worldwide with disc golf. Disc golf now has its own professional disc golf league with players making millions in tournaments and endorsements. And most of the courses throughout the United States are free to play. They're community courses, just like Wadsworth is. For Wadsworth specifically, this is according to UDisc. So every time a disc golfer goes, they record a round, record their score. So in 2021, there were 677 rounds played. In 2022, there were 3,300. The difference of that is from a man named Wiley Gray. I'm not sure if you all know him. He was the one that really pushed the redevelopment of that course. In 2023, we went from 3,000 now to 5,700. And in 24, we had 6,100 rounds played at Wadsworth. To give you some perspective, we beat out Medina's Roscoe Ewing course, which is I think it's the first course in Ohio. And we've had world champions that have come out of that course. They only had 4,600 rounds played at Roscoe Ewing compared to our 6,000. So our course really is very popular in the area. For me, it was starting around COVID just to try to get out with some friends. And our 3 friends now, we've grown into a league of 30 guys that meet every week. Even in the wintertime, so 52 weeks out of the year. And, it's just been great. I've given discs through Knights of Columbus. We've given them to the garage. It's a great way for youth to get outside and just get involved, get outside. All right, so it's a couple things to consider.
You have about 30 seconds.
Yep, allowing glow rounds at night. encouraging local businesses to promote our course, because guys want to go after the league, they want to go have a beer and go eat. Adding a basket or two at schools for the kids to learn. I know of a teacher that's put a course in his school. And then my ask is some sort of recognition for Wiley Gray. And also wood chips for the course. If you guys can supply them, I have the guys that will spread them for you. And I'm talking about in the woods, in the muddied areas, not throughout the grassy areas. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Is there anybody else that would like to address council? Seeing none. Is there any correspondence?
Yes, I do have correspondence. I have 4 items. The first item is 34 fiscal officer certificates received by the city auditor as required for ordinance numbers 25-133 through 25-166. The second item is 8 fiscal officer certificates received by the city auditor as required for ordinances number 25-167 through 25-174. The third item is a notice letter received by the city code enforcement officer regarding the condemned property at 179 Grandview Avenue. I placed a copy of the letter in council's folders. And the fourth item is from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control regarding a new liquor permit for, I'm going to say this wrong, Celio Tacos and Tequila located at 104 High Street. And if council does not object, I will return the application to the Division of Liquor Control by the end of the week.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That brings us to committee and commissions. There's a public hearing on ordinance number 25-128 on the 21st of October at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers. City Council has a work session on the downtown improvement plan for Thursday, October 30th at 5:30, and it'll be upstairs in the administrative console or conference room. City Council committees, Public Service Committee, Councilmember Stugmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Service Committee will meet next Tuesday, October the 14th. That's a half hour earlier, 5 p.m. here in City Council chambers.
Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Copley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Safety Committee will meet tomorrow night, the 8th of October at 4:30 p.m. here in council chambers.
Public Waste Committee, Councilmember Rosberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Ways will meet next Monday, the 13th at 6 o'clock here in council chambers.
Economic Development and Planning, Councilmember Yurcheck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Economic Development and Planning will next meet on Monday, October 13th at 5 p.m. in council chambers.
Committee of the Whole met tonight at 5 p.m. where we discussed legislation and some other items. Airport Commission, Councilmember Stugmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Airport Commission will meet on Wednesday, October the 15th, 4 p.m. here in council chambers.
Very good. Stormwater Commission, Councilmember Copley.
Stormwater Commission will next meet on Tuesday, the 14th of October at 4:30 p.m. here in council chambers, which is just before this Public Service Committee.
Okay. Shade Tree Commission, Councilmember Hines.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Shade Tree Commission will meet Tuesday, October 28th at 5 p.m. here in council chambers.
Planning Commission has a meeting scheduled for Monday, the 13th at 7 p.m. in council chambers. Cemetery Board, Councilmember Yurcheck.
Cemetery Board will next meet on the 15th of October at 5 p.m. in council chambers.
Cable TV Commission, Councilmember Copley.
The meeting of Cable TV Commission was held last Monday, I believe it was, October the 2nd. Is a very short meeting because the Guardians were playing on TV. And we have not scheduled the next meeting at this time.
Okay, very good. Senior Citizens Commission, Councilmember Parrish.
Thank you. The Senior Citizens Committee met yesterday at the Suprema Center at 3:30, and they're looking very forward to their Senior and Caregiver Expo, which is on Friday from 10 to 2.
All right. Finishes that. Will the clerk please read the legislation?
We'll start with first readings. So I apologize, there is a correction on your addendum. The resolutions are incorrect. So the first resolution should be 25-09, not 06. And then following that should be resolution 2506, not 07. And resolution 25-08 should be 07. and Resolution 2509 should be 2508. I apologize for that.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and just read them in from top to bottom, so, unless I should read them in order. Should I read them in order? Doesn't matter.
From
Okay.
top to bottom.
We'll just start at the top. Okay, we have Resolution Number 25-09 on first reading, co-sponsored by council members Jim Renacci, Ralph Copley, David Parrish, and was discussed at Committee of the Whole. A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing, I'm sorry, that is not correct either. That was sponsored by
Yeah, Jeannie Hines.
Jeannie Hines. Give me 1 second. This goes to 06. This goes to 07.
Is the number correct?
And this is, yes, the number is correct.
Okay.
The airport is, okay, I'm sorry about that. Where was I? A resolution number 25-09, first reading. A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Mr. President, I'd like to call the question on on resolution number 25-09.
You need to suspend the 3 reading rule first.
Oh,
It's on first reading.
first reading. Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the 3 reading rule on resolution number 2509-09.
Second.
Rossbert,
Yes.
Stugmeyer,
Yes.
Copley,
Yes.
Renacci,
Yes.
Parrish,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Yuracek.
Yes.
Just like to make one note, I did not co-sponsor that. I think I couldn't.
No,
do
we
it.
took you off.
Yeah,
It's
they
Hines.
changed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Now you-
Mr. President, I'd like to call the question on resolution number 25-09.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Hines' proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of resolution number 25-09?
Stugmeyer,
Yes.
Parrish,
Yes.
Renacci,
Yes.
Copley,
Yes.
Rossbert,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Yuracek.
Yes.
Resolution number 25-09 has been adopted.
Resolution number 25-06 on first reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jim Renacci, Ralph Copley, and David Parrish, and discussed at the Committee of the Whole. Did I get that correct?
Yep.
A resolution establishing the policy of the Council of the City of Wadsworth, Ohio, to limit the approval of borrowing to critical infrastructure and safety and security needs.
Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance number 25-06.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Parrish,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Yuracek,
No.
Rossbert,
Yes.
Stugmeyer,
No.
Copley,
Yes.
Renacci.
Yes.
So we're one short. We're going to have to move that to second reading.
Mr. President, I'd like to move resolution number 25-06 to second reading.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolution number 25-06 has been placed on second reading.
Resolution number 25-07 on first reading, co-sponsored by Councilmember David Parrish, Ralph Copley, Jeannie Hines, and Jim Renacci, and discussed at Committee of the Whole. A resolution declaring that the Council of the City of Wadsworth will not authorize the incurrence of debt or borrowing of funds for park renovations.
Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the 3 reading rule on resolution number 25-07.
Second.
Rossbert,
Yes.
Stugmeyer,
No.
Copley,
Yes.
Renacci,
Yes.
Parrish,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Yuracek.
No.
Mr. President, I'd like to move resolution number 25-07 to second reading.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolution number 25-07 has been placed on second reading.
Resolution number 25-08 on first reading, sponsored by council members David Parrish, Ralph Copley, Jeannie Hines, and Jim Renacci. A resolution on the operational and capital needs of Wadsworth Municipal Airport and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the three-reading rule on resolution number 25-08.
Second?
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Yuracek?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Mr. President, I move to call, where is it? Call the question on ordinance resolution number 25-08.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Parrish's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance or resolution 25-08?
Parrish?
Yes.
Yuracek?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Resolution number 25-08 has been adopted.
And the following 34 ordinances, 25-133 through 25-166, are all annual housekeeping legislation. They're on first reading and co-sponsored by Council President David Williams and Ralph Copley. They were discussed at Committee of the Whole this evening, October 7th. And at Council's request, I will read the 34 ordinances straight through, and Council will act on them as a group. Ordinance number 25-133, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2011 stormwater improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-134, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2012 stormwater improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-135, an ordinance, I wrote that twice. An ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2012 Brookwood Lift Station and Force Main Sanitary Sewer and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-136, an ordinance, I don't know why I did that, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2012 water distribution improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-137, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2011 water distribution improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-138, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2012 water plant generator and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-139, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2011 electrical capital improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-140, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2013 stormwater improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-141, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2013 water distribution improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-142, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2013 water plant improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-143, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2012 airport land acquisition and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-144, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2013 outdoor pool and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-145, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2014 water distribution improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-146, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation for the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2021 WWTP blended sludge tank rehab and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-147, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2021 State Street staging area culvert and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-148, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2021 Seville Road culvert and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 25-149, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2022 street equipment and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-150, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2022 southwest parking lot improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-151, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2021 State Route 57 Waterline Project and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-152, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2022 dewatering station and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-153, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2023 backhoe for sewer and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-154, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2023 backhoe for water and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-155, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2023 Wolf Avenue improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-156, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2023 telecom improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-157, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2009 water system improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-158, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2004 Rogues Hollow well and declaring an emergency. And ordinance number 25-159, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2006 Valley View substation improvements and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-160, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2021 Baker Valley View water line and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-161, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2023 State Road Pump and Generator Project and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-162, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2024 sanitary sewer jet vac combo truck and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-163, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2024 water jet vac combo truck and declaring an emergency. Excuse me. Ordinance number 25-164, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2024 sanitary sewer WCTV equipment and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-165, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2023 sanitary sewer projects, College Wolf Lining, and an ordinance and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-166, an ordinance providing for the issuance of a note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the 2024 sewer lining project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the three-reading rule on ordinances 25-133 through 25-166.
Second.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Renacci? Parrish?
Yes.
Yuracek?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes. Mr. President, I call the question on ordinances numbered 25-133 through 25-166.
Hearing no objection to council members' proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance numbers 25-133 through 25-166?
Parrish?
Yes.
Yuracek?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Renacci? Rossbert?
Yes.
And Copley?
Yes.
Ordinances number 25-133 through 25-166 has been adopted.
And the following 8 ordinances number 25-167 through 25-174 are issuance and sale of notes. They're on first reading, co-sponsored by President of Council David Williams and Councilmember Ralph Copley. They were discussed at the Committee of the Whole, and at Council's request, I'll read 8 ordinances straight through, and Council will act on them as a group. Ordinance number 25-167, an ordinance providing for the issuance of sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $555,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of the acquisition, construction, and installation of a bulk water fill station, including design and engineering work, and together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-168. An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $415,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of the construction of the City Hall parking lot for use by the city by paving, grading, and curbing, and providing necessary lighting, security fencing, gates, and cameras, and drainage improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-169. An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $2,860,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs of the downtown improvement project, including designing, engineering, constructing, acquiring, renovating, and improving downtown infrastructure, including public roadways, streets, and parking lots, and related curbs and gutters, grading on street parking sidewalks, water mains, sanitary sewers, and storm sewers, utility conduits, traffic and pedestrian signals, landscaping, and otherwise improving the sites thereof, and equipment and appurtenances as may be necessary in connection therewith, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-170. An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $1,930,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of the improvement of the city's municipal recreation facilities, including Freed Park, by acquiring, constructing, equipping, and furnishing a new synthetic turf field, a new playground, and a new restroom building, together with all-inclusive equipment, lighting, and related fixtures and other appurtenances, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-171. An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $450,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the costs of the construction of the Southwest Downtown Municipal Parking Lot for use by the city by paving, grading, and curbing, and providing necessary lighting and drainage improvements, and the addition and construction of a public pavilion space, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-172. An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $1,170,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of improving the sanitary sewer system, including sanitary sewer rehabilitation and installation of cured in-place sanitary sewer pipe and manhole rehabilitation, including all appurtenances, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 25-173. An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $645,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of the acquisition, construction, replacement, and installation of approximately 3,000 feet of water lines along Tolbert Street, including design and engineering work, and together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency. And our last one, ordinance number 25-174, an ordinance providing for the issuance and the sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $1,990,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of the acquisition and installation of water system meters for use by the water system, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to move ordinances 25-167 through 25-174 to second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No on 25-170.
Well, I was going to bring that up next. Is it possible to break these out and vote on them one at a time?
It's possible.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to move ordinance number 25-167 to second reading.
Okay, 1 second.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'd like to move ordinance number...
Wait.
Oh, you got to
Okay, so that was 167 to second reading, and there was a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-167 has been moved to second reading.
Ordinance number 25-168, I'd like to move to second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-168 has been moved to second reading.
Ordinance number 25-169, I'd like to ask the administration to provide additional details on what that cost is going to be used to cover, and I'll move it to second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-169 has been moved to second reading.
Ordinance number 25-170, I'd like to move from the agenda.
Second.
Okay, do I take a roll call vote on that?
Roll call.
Okay. Stugmeyer?
No.
Copley?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Rosbert?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Yurcheck?
No.
Renacci?
What did he say?
Let's see. He said no. I got one,
Renacci
2
said
no's.
yes.
What did Renee say?
I'm sorry. Stugmeyer?
What was your vote on 170? To remove it?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Sorry, I couldn't hear down there.
Okay, ordinance number 25-171.
Wait, better call it. Ordinance number 25-170 has been removed from the agenda. Okay, now you go.
Okay, ordinance number 25-171. I'd like some explanation on that, because in the original 2025 budget book, this was showed as an internal note, not an external note. I want to know the reasoning behind that. So I'll move that one to second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-171 has been moved to second reading.
Ordinance number 25-172, I'd like to move to second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-172 has been moved to second reading.
Okay, ordinance number 25-173, I'd like to move to second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-173 has been placed on second reading.
And ordinance number 25-174, I'd like to move to second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-174 has been placed on second reading.
Okay. We have ordinance number 25-175 on first reading, sponsored by Councilmember Ralph Copley and discussed in Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to make a supplemental appropriation of $19,778.91 in the 110 General Fund for purposes other than personal services for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025.
Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the three-reading rule on ordinance number 25-175.
Second.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Yurcheck?
Yes.
Rosbert?
Yes.
Mr. President, I call the question on ordinance number 25-175.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Copley's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-175?
Parrish?
Yes.
Rosbert?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Yurcheck?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-175 has been adopted.
Ordinance number 25-176 on first reading, sponsored by Councilmember John Yurcheck, discussed at Committee of the Whole, and forwarded by the Planning Commission. An ordinance to amend sections 154.035 and 154.083 of the codified ordinances of the City of Wadsworth pertaining to general and development requirements and condominium developments and declaring an emergency. And if there's no objection from council, a public hearing will be set for November 18th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers.
Mr. President, I move that we place ordinance number 25-176 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-176 has been moved to second reading.
Ordinance number 25-177 on first reading, sponsored by Councilmember Ralph Copley and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and the director of public safety of the city of Wadsworth, Ohio, to enter into a contract with the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association in regard to sergeants and dispatchers in the Wadsworth Police Department and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the three reading rule on ordinance number 25-177.
Second.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Yuracek?
Yes.
And Copley.
Yes. Mr. President, I call the question on ordinance number 25-177.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Copley's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-177?
Parrish?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Yuracek?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Copley.
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-177 has been adopted.
Now we'll move to second readings. We have ordinance number 25-127 on second reading, sponsored by Councilmember Dan Rossbert, discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to provide for the issuance of a bond in the principal amount of $75,346.54 in anticipation of the collection of special assessments heretofore levied to pay the property owner's portion of the cost of the 2024 sidewalk program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move to place ordinance number 25-127 on third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-127 has been placed on third reading.
Ordinance number 25-128 on second reading, sponsored by Councilmember John Yuracek, discussed at Economic Development and Planning. There is a public hearing set for October 21st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers. An ordinance creating the Addison Wadsworth Tax Increment Financing, TIF, Incentive District pursuant to Sections 5709.40, 5709.42, and 5709.43 of the revised code, declaring improvements to the parcels within the incentive district to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, requiring the owners of those parcels to make service payments in lieu of taxes, establishing a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of those service payments, specifying the public infrastructure improvements that benefit or serve parcels in the incentive district, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place ordinance number 25-128 on third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-128 has been moved to third reading.
Ordinance number 25-132 on second reading, sponsored by Councilmember Tom Stugmeyer, discussed at public service. An ordinance to authorize the Director of Public Service to establish an initial rate for the City of Wadsworth municipality-owned electric vehicle EV charging station at 35 cents per kilowatt hour and declare an emergency.
Mr. President, I make a motion to move ordinance number 25-132 to third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-132 has been moved to third reading.
And our last one is ordinance number 25-118 on fourth reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jeannie Hines and discussed at Economic Development and Planning. An ordinance amending the boundaries of the downtown Wadsworth designated outdoor refreshment area, DORA, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to place ordinance number 25-118 on fifth reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-118 has been placed on fifth reading. Is there any other business tonight?
Did you attend to the contract?
I'm sorry?
The contract?
What?
Please.
The
Did that one get done?
sergeants and...
Yeah, 177.
Did that one get
Yeah,
done?
we did.
Okay, I missed that one. Okay.
It was at the end of the new business.
Okay, just want to make sure I didn't hear one.
I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I was just going to, Scare on the Square is going to be next Saturday, October the 18th. That's been moved from a Thursday to a Saturday, extended hours from 3 to 9. It'll finish up with a little band playing down at the Pocket Park. And again, so a new event, or same event, a longer, new day and a longer event.
And no rain, correct?
No rain.
Yeah, all right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.